there's still some like magic to it. It like feels like magic to me. That like no matter how intentional I might be, it's like things happen that I didn't expect. Like little things, big things, things that the characters will do that like it's like, wait a second, how did they I wasn't expecting they were gonna do this or say this, and it just kind of like blossoms, you know? And I think like the same thing must be true um for all kinds of artists, like whatever they're working on. And like this is one of the reasons why I think like artificial intelligence can never replicate anything that humans can do. Like when it comes to art, when it comes to literature, like there might be all of the technical knowledge, you know, based on their pilfering of other people's creative work and ingesting them into the AI system that they then use to like create, you know, an AI product, but like it doesn't have that same kind of it can't have that same kind of magic um that you can produce as a human.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creativity Worth Expressing. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today we have a special guest. She is an author, and she has already a few amazing books that are out, and she has a book that is coming out later this year. She is the author of Mr. Yay. Please welcome to the podcast our special guest, Emily Jane. Emily, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast and something that I like to do on the show. And I always say it every single episode, pretty much. But something I like to do is to explore the creative background or the creative journey of each guest. And today I'm holding in my hand Mr. Yay, which is going to be coming out when?
June 2nd,
June 2nd of 2020,
2026.
2026. And we're going to get into this. But before we do, I always like to go back. And my first question is, when did your love for creativity, particularly for writing, what sparked it?
I think it's always been there. You know, I've loved books since I was a kid. I love to read, and I remember staying up all night as a kid reading books. Um, and I think, you know, the first thing I started to write when I was a teenager, I liked to write poetry, and I did a lot of that. And I was in a couple bands, and I wrote songs. So I think I've always been kind of on a creative journey, just doing a lot of different sorts of things, music and theater, and I used to like draw like cities that I would imagine in my head, and I like draw the little streets for them. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's always been there.
So creativity was just sparking all over in your life, like a firework. You could say, you know, those
Yeah.
fireworks are like spinning and the flames are going everywhere. So we see this in your background that you have this love for not only writing, but you're mentioning drawing, music. Was there something that pulled you specifically in this direction? Was there like an aha moment where it wasn't only about reading, but now it's like you saw the power of writing?
So I mean, so as far as novel, like writing a novel, yeah, I had always, I think when I was younger, I always saw myself as m more of a poet, and didn't really, I didn't write short stories. I didn't really imagine writing prose ever. Um, but when I was in college, I had this boyfriend, and he wrote a novel, and it was really cool. It was based on this conversation that this friend and I had about like if you were a superhero, what would your powers be? And all of our friends like made up superheroes, and my boyfriend at the time wrote this whole novel using all of these characters that we all made up. And I just thought it was really cool, like to see the process of him write this. And I was like, this is just it's so neat, and I don't think I can ever do this. And he says to me, well, of course you can do it. Like just imagine yourself in a different scenario. What would that look like? Like picture your different world. What are you doing? What happens? And so I decided to try it, and I wrote my first novel. Took me 5 years. About 5 years. I went to law school during the middle of that like 5 year process. Um, and then I put it away for a while, and I didn't write for a while. I just like I had done this novel. I was like happy that I had experienced the process of creating one, and I guess it wasn't until several years later that I felt like the spark just kind of hit me again. And so I've been writing ever since.
For your debut novel, what did you write?
So my debut novel, it's called On Earth as It Is on Television. It's a great title. I know it's a great
Yes.
title. Like I love it. I just took me like several months to of thinking about what the title would be to come across that line that I had already written in the book and was like, aha, the title is already right here. Like it's perfect. But so On Earth as It Is on Television, it is the story of it is a first contact story. And in the story, huge, like miles wide spaceships show up over most of Earth's major cities. And they're there for about a day and then they leave. And nobody knows why they came or why they left or if they're coming back or like why did they not talk to us here on our little B-list planet or uh are they going to come back and blow us up? Like just nobody knows. Um so it's a really fun story. I would describe it as um it's science fiction, but it is kind of like light science fiction, so not like hard sci-fi, science-y space battle. It's more about like the human response to the realization that we're not alone in the universe. Oh, and there are cats, and they're all the cats are acting weird, and so that's another question in the books, like what happened with all the cats, and why are they acting so strange? So, it's really fun. It came out in 2023, and um, it was not my second book. That when I mentioned that the
Mm.
bug like hit me, and I felt like I had to write again. That was not the book. So wrote a lot of books in between that and On Earth.
Okay, so you've written a number of books. My question for you is, when you started this journey, because it sounded like you started later in life, or
Yeah.
am I okay? Started a little bit later in life. How did you identify the genre that you wanted to write for? Like, was there a moment where like you had to choose, or was it just like the creative realm just pulled you in this direction?
So let me answer. I'll answer your question, but let me answer your question first with a question, which is like what uh, what is genre and why do we need to be stuck in any particular genre? Like I think that there's this like you want to be able to easily identify something or categorize something and say like it fits in this box, right? You're a bookseller and you think like here I've got this book, what shelf do I put it on? What do I call it? Um, I guess I like to think of myself as not a writer who is bound by any particular genre. And my genre is kind of like it kind of goes all over the place. So, Mr. Yay, the one that comes out in June, like it is more like sci-fi-ish, speculative leaning, as was my debut. But I've done some fantasy, some horror. there's a little bit of humor in everything that I write. So I kind of like to meander genre wise. But as far as your question, like how did I decide like what type of book that I wanted to write? And I think that that was a matter of practice books. So, when I wrote that first novel, I was like so proud of it. I thought it was awesome. I loved it. It was not at all the sort of book that I had imagined myself writing. Like I had thought of myself as a poet, right? And then I wrote this first book and it was so campy, like silly, campy, like sci-fi. Um, and I was like, well, that's weird. Like that's not what I expected would happen when I wrote a book. This is just like what came out of me.
Mhm.
Um, and so I like wrote another book and that book like was not genre at all. It was way more kind of like serious, literary, and I was like, well, that was fun, but it didn't feel quite right. And then I wrote two more after that before I think on my fifth book was the book that I felt that I had finally found like not so much my genre, but like my voice. Like where, what genre elements do I like to use? Like a style of humor, just kind of I felt like this is the mark, like this is me. And that fifth book actually was Mr. Gay that is coming out in June.
Yeah, so you've done a lot of work before getting to this. Would you say
Yeah.
that is Mr. Ye, is that like your magnum opus, or would you say all of your work as a collective it's all you?
I mean, I think it's all me. Like I love Mr. Gay. And when I said it's the fifth book that I wrote, my debut was the 17th book that I wrote. So I'm like at this point where I'm like kind of all over the place with like what book I wrote when it's coming out. So it's not my magnum opus, no. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like hope I never have a magnum opus. Um I like all of the books that I've written, and I think there's all some relation between them and some overlapping themes, overlapping voice, and
Earlier, you mentioned that you imagine yourself as a poet, and then life and the magic in life and creativity pulled you into writing all that you have been writing. But I noticed that in Mr. Ye, and I'm not going to leave any spoilers. I'll try to make it, as general as possible. But there is some like rapping and there's some music. And
yeah.
was that like, were you like kind of showing a bit of your poetic side in these attempts, or even like you mentioned that before you were also into music? Was that you tapping into that musical poetic side and sharing it with your audience?
Um, yes and no. S- So there's a character in the book, or two characters, that are together, like together they form the rap duo Mr. Gay, and one of them is the rapper and one of them makes the beats. And these two characters were inspired by my brother. Um, about it's more than a decade ago now. My brother set out on a journey to become a rapper. and and he's my baby brother. I thought he was amazing. I loved his music. Um his name is Anthony, and at the time his rapper name was Deluxe. And so like I had a little kid, like a toddler at the time. My toddler just like loved Deluxe, Uncle Deluxe, and his raps that she didn't understand what he was rapping about. But she loved she loved to listen to them. Um, and he's been Deluxe ever since. And I just like it was so cool to like watch that process. He's not a rapper anymore, sadly. He's a DJ, which is great, but he stopped rapping. But that was kind of like his character was, or his real like persona was kind of like the inspiration for these two separate characters who work together as like the rap duo in this book. So when I first started drafting the book, some of the lines, some of the rap lines came from rap songs that he wrote.
Oh.
And then I did a lot of work to them. So like he deserves credit for like some of the initial stuff, but like the like there are a lot of there have been a lot of modifications to that.
So, a cool thing as a reader, and I hope that the people who are watching or listening to this, you better get a copy of this book. I hope you do. Something that I find fascinating is when I'm reading a book, I- I'll use, for example, Lord of the Rings books. I use that as an example because many people have already read these books. There are scenes in these books where there's like songs, and sometimes there's long songs, but in my mind, I'm trying to find like the music that would accompany these songs in
Hmm.
Lord of the Rings. And of course, I've been influenced by the films as well, so my mind is going off of that. But as I'm reading your book, the fun thing is that I'm reading the lyrics and I'm trying to see in my mind how I mean how would it sound? I mean it sounds as I'm reading it, it's popping, you know, it's like all right, like it's pretty these are some pretty cool lyrics. As you're writing it, like do you have a melody in your mind as you're writing it down?
Um, Not exactly, no. No, not for this. Like I remember that having that melody in my head like when I was in bands and I used to write songs. But for the rap, no, like I kind of have a feeling, but I can't really hear it. Um I wish I could hear it. That would that would be really cool, but I can't really hear it. And I think it's also like I think it's changed over time. So like when I first drafted this book, it was 2016, I think. I wrote the book. Um, and then it went on my shelf, and I thought, like, I don't know how to explain this book. Like, what is the plot of this book? How do I pitch this book? It's so weird. It's not like it, it's not like it has like an easy like hook, right? For what is it? And I just like, I thought it's never gonna be published. Like, I love this book, but it's just gonna sit on my shelf forever. And then when my editor was trying to decide what book to do next, I gave him a list of all of the work that I've done, you know, because I've been like busy writing this whole time. I think I just finished counting the two books that I wrote with my 11-year-olds. I just finished the 26th book that I've drafted. Um, so So this one, I was like, this one's never gonna come out. And my editor like picked it off of this list of all of my work. He was just like, oh, I like this. Like, I like rap. Like, let's do this book. This book. So I think like the way I heard the lyrics in my head, or like the way they kind of come together, like maybe it was definitely different when I wrote it in 2016 than when I went back and like pretty much rewrote it last year to get it ready for it to be published.
Something that comes to my mind as I'm listening to you and as I'm reading the book is that is well going to music. Like you go to an orchestra, and there are many. Of course, you have the players, you have violin and everything else, and sometimes you even have like opera where they're singing. But there's so many parts, and then you have the conductor who's keeping it all together, the pacing, the timing, even the like how loud. I don't know all the terms. But as I'm reading your book, I'm seeing because we're also like earlier I was trying to ask you like how did you identify like the genre, and then you're asking me that you're not bound within genre, but it's more of a I see it more as a realm that you're tapping into, and I don't know, but I see it almost like as a like a conductor where you're holding the symphony, and there's like different scenes and different timelines, and there's like going back and flashbacks, and I don't want to say too much, but as a writer, how are you able to juggle all of these things and still make it become a harmony? Because it really is a harmony. It does come together.
Um, like I think that's to me in a way that's a mystery. And I wonder I wonder myself like how does it come together? Because I think like it I mean this is the thing I think it's probably true for like every field, every creative field, right? That you can think about the technical aspects of something, right? Like how to write a sentence, like what's your plot, what's your structure, what are your character? You can outline it. You can know the technical aspects of like making a song, but then when you actually sit down and try to produce that like piece of art, whatever the art is, um, I feel like it's more than the sum of what goes into it, right? It becomes kind of like its own thing. And like there's definitely some degree of intentionality when I'm working on a story. Um, you know, and especially when you go back through the editing process, like you write something and you think about, okay, like what themes do I have and what do I want to like capture more of? What do I need more of to make this story work? Um, and I also try to like write a draft within a pretty short period of time. I like to do a first draft in like 3 to 4 months because I find it's easier to keep all of the threads together, right? Just like naturally without planning how I'm going to keep them together. They're all still kind of like in your head, right? But there's still some like magic to it. It like feels like magic to me. That like no matter how intentional I might be, it's like things happen that I didn't expect. Like little things, big things, things that the characters will do that like just like wait a second, how did they I wasn't expecting they were going to do this or say this and it just kind of like blossoms, you know? And I think like the same thing must be true um for all kinds of artists, like whatever they're working on. And like this is one of the reasons why I think like artificial intelligence can never replicate anything that humans can do. Like when it comes to art, when it comes to literature, like there might be all of the technical knowledge, based on their pilfering of other people's creative work and ingesting them into the AI system that they then use to like create, an AI product, but like it doesn't have that same kind of it can't have that same kind of magic um that you can produce as a human.
So in this book, so far, it's a magical book for me.
Thank you.
I won't say anymore. But I wanted to ask about some of the characters. You already mentioned a bit about Mr. Ye and how your brother was a influence on these characters duo. Um, but you have some other characters in there as well that I think are for me are worth noting. But uh, is there a character that you would like to choose that maybe you can share a bit about to the audience?
um sure, I guess. So the other than the rap duo, the main character is a woman. Her name is Miriam. She's a therapist and she has 2 kids and she has a husband who works a bazillion hours a week. He's a workaholic, works all the time, and he is therefore absent because of this. Uh, and I think, her journey is like I think something that a lot of people go through, like just dealing with, juggling, having a spouse and kids and a job of your own, and then like, what do you do when your partner is like absent? How do you grapple with that? Um, and like, how has that changed over the course of their lives together? Because obviously, like, when they got married, he was not absent. Like, otherwise they wouldn't have got married. So, um, she's the definitely the main character, but she lives on a street with several of her friends. They're friends and neighbors, and there's like two other couples that her and her husband hang out with. Um, and I would say like that kind of dynamic is definitely inspired by my experience living here in Cincinnati, which I love Cincinnati. I never thought I never thought I would say that. I love Cincinnati, but I do. It's a great city. Or as we like to call it, the Hawaii of Ohio. Um, but it's like just it's a very community oriented place, at least the neighborhood that we live in. And like, all your neighbors, and all of my friends live in the neighborhood. And so it was like that kind of dynamic that I was hoping to capture between these people. But if any of my friends ever hear this podcast, none of those characters are based on you specifically. It's just like the overall dynamic.
Well, if it that that whole environment with Miriam, as I'm reading it, it sounds very. It can be any one of us. Um, it feels very relatable. I mean, I know a lot of people who are in similar circumstances, and like I said, I don't want to spoil too much. But it really okay. So like for my mind, when someone is writing, like let's say a genre, or let's say like I'm writing something for fun, uh, be it hell, let's just say horror, like my mind will stay on that path. But what I'm finding interesting is that you're able to juggle between like rap, uh, and some other things that are very interesting as you're like go as you are tackling like these different angles. I'm wondering like, do you have to prepare differently, or like do you find yourself going into like another section of your brain, or I don't know. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, this is also like it's kind of a mystery to me how it happens. I love writing different character point of views. Like, I don't know if I've ever written a book that would just had one point of view in it. I like jumping around. I think it's like you can see more aspects of a story if you kind of jump around. Um, and the one time I tried to do a single point of view book. It was well, not the second book that I wrote, but the second book that was published. It's called Here Beside the Rising Tide. It's a sea monster story with a weird space-time travel squid. And and I wrote it with like a single point of view and sent it to my editor. And my editor was like, you know what? It needs more points of view. So I added them in. But yeah, I don't know. I like you just like sit down and are kind of like in the character's head, imagining like what it's like to be in this character's head.
Well, because like in other books that I've read, not from you, but in general, sometimes like in the story in the book, there's different points of view, but of the same. It's almost like of the same story, of like the same event, just different points of view. But this is a lot broader and like different locations, and it's just for me, I found that very very fascinating, and I'm almost at the end, and I am so I almost feel like the character Annie Wilkes. Do you know who that is?
Sounds familiar. Like I probably should. I'm so terrible with remembering names.
From she's from the book Misery, and she's like
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I read that.
I feel like Annie Wilkes. Like I can't wait to reach the end, because just as you're putting it together, I really enjoy it. But I wanted to move on and I wanted to tackle something else that I found very interesting. And I think you mentioned this before about animals. My question for you is, in your personal life, do you have a love for animals, or is this just like in the books?
You could just open the door for me to talk about my kittens. I like, I mean, I've always liked animals. Um, and okay, this book has a lot of dogs. I was never a dog person. Don't judge me. I just like didn't have dogs growing up. It just wasn't like something that was in my life growing up. And I also, I don't know, like I have some s sensory sensitivities. And so like the idea of being licked by a dog, I just like, as a kid, I was like now I'm fine with it. But as a kid, I was like, I couldn't handle it. So I had cats growing up. And then when I got married, my husband, like we were living in San Francisco and we rent in a rental apartment. We couldn't have a dog and he had doggy fever, like bad doggy fever. We'd like go out for a walk and he'd see people with dogs and be like could not wait. The first thing he did when we moved here to Cincinnati, we bought a house here, um, was he went out and bought a dog. It was like 2 days after we moved into this house. So we had that dog for a while, Mulder. We had Mulder and Scully.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Mulder was a mutt. Scully was a orange kind of orange cat with like weepy eye. They have both sadly passed. And now we have Nymeria, the husky. She's beautiful. Very stubborn, but is just like a gorgeous, very nice dog. And we have three cats. One of which is his name is Ripley. Also, like my my husband's named most of them like Ripley from from the Alien franchise, of
Yeah.
course. So Ripley, uh, right before my debut novel came out, which is like a book with cats, and the cats are acting weird,
Oh
and
yeah.
right before it came out, this cat Ripley shows up in our yard. And we're like, oh, she is so fat. She's probably gonna have kittens. Like, we bet she's gonna have kittens. Just big cat. And our next door neighbor, we kind of like care for this cat with our next door neighbor. Next door neighbor takes this cat to the vet, and the vet's like, this is not a female cat. It's just a boy, and it's very fat, and he's just like fat. Um, And Ripley had a chip, and they called the owner of the chip, and the owner was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna come get him," and never came.
Mm.
And so this cat, like, we think this cat was just abandoned by its owner based on where the owner was living. It's like far enough away from our house that like there's no way this very fat cat like wandered to our neighborhood. It was just dropped off here and just decided to like move into our yard. So we've kept it in the yard. It'll like go into my neighbor's house. He'll go into my neighbor's house whenever it's cold or like very wet. But he wants to just hang out in the yard. He sleeps on our front porch. He will not come inside because he does not like the dog. But he's our yard cat and he's lovely. And then we have two kittens that we got in September, Mochi and Lennon. My children named them. And yes, they're lovely, like wonderful cats. And I like, I mean, I always liked cats for sure, but not until I got these kittens did I feel like obsessed with my cats. Like when I first got them, I remember going to work and like feeling like the way I felt when I had like babies. like like my own children,
Yeah.
babies, and I had to like leave them behind because I went to work, and I was just like, I can't wait to come home to my cats. Um, yeah, they're very nice.
I was remembering in the beginning of this interview when you were mentioning that, when you were a kid, you would be reading a lot of books. You were a reader. Your books are not really that child friendly, I don't think. I mean, they're great books for me. I love them. But do you ever see yourself with your love for animals? Is there a possibility of maybe writing something for kids? Not necessarily for with animals involved, but for kids in general.
So, I will say my like my children who are they've read many of my books. Despite the like swear words, that like these kids they love some of the books. But actually like I have written two middle grade books. So middle grade being like for like ages 8 through 12, kind of that
Mm.
range. And I co-wrote these with my now 11-year-olds. And it was a really cool process. Like, and also totally different from my own experience writing books like myself. Um, because like when I sit down to write a book, I'm just like I have kind of a loose idea of where I'm going. I'm what's called a pantser. Have you heard those terms, pantser versus plotter?
Mm.
Okay, I'm a pantser. Like I like kind of know where I'm going, but I'm just like things are happening and they happen when I'm writing. Um, but these two books that I co-wrote with my 11-year-olds, we wrote them because she was having trouble finding what she likes to read, which sh at the time was science fiction with animals. And there's lots of fantasy books for middle grade, that range with animals, lots and lots of fantasy books, but like straight up science fiction with animals, like not so much. And we were having trouble finding like lots of things for her to read. And I was like, let's write our own. Like there has to be there has to be like some market out there, right? Of kids who want to read this and also it would be really fun. And I like broached the idea and she got really excited about it. And um so we wrote these two books. They're the ideas, they're part of like what maybe would be like a 12 book series. Um, and the first book starts, there's like this 10-year-old girl, it's her birthday, and she is gifted this video game controller that her best friend found in his grandpa's attic. And it's like clearly a video game controller, but looks like ancient, like has, like rust on it and has been like sitting up there for a very long time. Has all of these different buttons, but the like lettering is worn off, so you can't see what any of the buttons do, except for one that says swap. And she presses this swap button, and it causes her sister to swap bodies with the family dog. And then the family dog escapes in her sister's body and runs off. And so, so the book is like she's like with her sister who's now in the dog's body, and they have to like go capture her sister's body and like swap them back. Um, it's really fun. It was like such a different such a different process because like to write it with my 11-year-olds, we had to plot intensively. We did all the world building together, and I kind of operated as like a guide
Mhm.
for her to figure out like where is this book gonna go? What are we gonna do with it? So I'd be like, okay, here we're gonna have a character. What's the character's name? What does the character look like? Like, what is the character into? Like, what about their parents? And like, we kind of went through this process, and I'm just like asking questions. And my kid is just like, the character's name is Judy. This is what she looks like. And I'm just like, taking notes, asking questions. And then we did the same thing with like the whole plot of the book. chapter by chapter, like every little bit was just like, even down to the dialogue. I'm like, okay, what does this character say? What does this character say? And then once I get like all of these very detailed notes, I'd go up and like draft it into something that was like, well written. Um, so totally a different process, but it was really fun. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what's going to become of those books. My agent, or I guess I should say our agent, is trying to sell them. But from what I've heard, everybody says the middle grade market is just like really tough right now because kids are playing video games and not reading books. And
Are these books out yet?
no, no,
Oh no.
they're written. We are hoping to sell them. I don't know if that's going to happen. If we don't sell them, we're going to publish them ourselves. So we'll see.
Well, best of luck. And I think you hit on something very interesting about, the that market, that age
Yeah.
group, where I know technology, it's something that's really captivating the attention and the minds of our young. But I remember in my childhood, yes, those things were present, but you know what my mom would do? She'd take my butt to the library. And
Yeah.
there that's where I fell in love with literature. My thoughts on the video games like Sonic the Hedgehog, Mortal Kombat, all those cool games that stayed outside the library. When I entered those doors, it was like entering those pearly gates of heaven or something, and I'm in a different realm. And I hope that kids can, or maybe parents can, uh like kind of like what you're doing. You're collaborating with your child, you're getting involved, and writing a story. That's so freaking awesome. And something I wanted to ask you, because it seems to be your superpower, managing time, and to be able to do things, not only writing your books but also facilitating with your child. How do you unleash this superpower? What is like the source?
So I will say that one, it really helps to have a stay-at-home husband. Like it totally does. No, and this is like this is one of the things that I think about this a lot, and it really frustrates me. Not for me personally, but like in a larger sense, because it's like I think that there are a lot of people who want to make art and want to spend time writing and want to spend time making music and like doing these creative endeavors. And like I feel like we are all in such a rat race to just like make our, to meet our basic ends, to like feed ourselves and afford to have a house and a car and like whatever we need. We're just like scrambling all of the time. And it's just like that makes it very hard for a lot of people to find the time to make art, to write books, to make music because they're just like so busy with, you know, that sort of day-to-day need. And like lots of people who have like two jobs, or three jobs, just try to like keep it all together. And like it's it's infuriating because like, okay, it shouldn't be like that. Like it shouldn't be like that at all. We shouldn't have the level of economic inequality that we have right now. But it's also like, what sort of art are we getting, right? When so many people are like struggling to have that opportunity to make art, I feel like there's some homogenization of, the stories that are being told, or at least that like people can tell and then find the time to like polish and like push out there into the market. Um, in terms of like publishing books, like there's a great avenue to like self-publish books that there didn't used to be. Now, but like to go down that route, you have to be able to afford to like pay for a cover, pay for an editor, right? Like that takes money. To go like the traditional publishing route, like I went, it takes a lot of time because like you're just hoping like you're gonna like you're gonna find an agent with this book, and if you don't find an agent with this book, you've got to have another book and another book, and then like if you don't sell your first book to publishers, like what's the next book after that? Like it just it, time is money. So um, that was a really long aside. No,
No, it's
but
fine.
but as far as how I'm able to find the time to do it, yeah, definitely. Like I have a day job that pays me well enough that I can have a stay-at-home husband living in Cincinnati, Ohio. Um, which is one of the reasons we moved here to Cincinnati because it's one of those places where like you can buy a house and it's still relatively affordable, and it especially was when we moved here in 2008. It's very cheap. Um, so that that means that like a lot of the things that I would have to worry about, like grocery shopping and like doing my laundry, like he does that. Um, but there's also like definitely a time management issue in that like I I don't make like working an option. Like if I'm working on a book, like it's not like, do I feel like sitting down and working on the book? And a lot of times the answer is no. You get home from work and you're tired and you're like, I just want to rest. I'm tired. Like I don't want to go upstairs and like work on this novel. And I guess I'm really good at like making myself, forcing myself to do it, even when I don't want to do it. And then when I do, like once I'm up there, it's kind of like going for a run, right? Like, do you ever wake up in the morning and you're like, yes, I can't wait to run. Like it's gonna be so wonderful.
Yeah, all the time.
Like nobody like wakes. I mean, maybe there are people. Okay, I'm a runner. Well, I'm a jogger. Like I'm a slow jogger. But I do it all the time, and I still don't like wake up and feel like, yes, let's go do this. Like, no, it's more like wake up and like lay in bed and scroll on your phone, right? But I'm good at like making myself do it anyway. And then once you're running, you're like, okay, I'm glad I'm running. Like, and you finish and you feel good that you did it.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for sharing all about your journey, how it started, and how it's led to where you're at now. Um, Real quick question, how do you see your creative powers or your creative journey? How do you see it evolving in the future?
So I just I want to keep on writing books. Like I love the process of writing books. And being able to get those out into the world and share them with people and like make connections and know that something I wrote um has an impact on somebody's life. Like maybe it's big, maybe it's small, maybe it's just like it brings them entertainment or joy. I hope it brings them joy. Um, I just want to keep doing it, and I'd love to keep on doing it in the capacity that I am now, like through traditional publishing because uh, I I think self-pub is great, but it's like it requires a lot of also marketing. Like you got to market yourself and
Yeah.
you got to like
It's a lot of work too.
it's a lot of work. I'm like I'm already doing a lot of work and I don't want to add more work to the work I'm already doing. Um so
But
yeah.
do you see any of your books or even Mr. Ye becoming a film or even a TV series?
Well, one of them, I don't know if I can talk about this. One of them has been optioned. That's all I'm going to say. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything in the world of film or television because as far as like what my film agent told me, I think it's like 7% of optioned books actually make it to production. And I think that's production, which like it might be a smaller percentage that even actually ever make it out there. Like I mean I would love to see all of my books get made into movies or television shows. I think some of them would be really great. I think my third book, American Werewolves, it's about venture capitalist werewolves. I think would be a fantastic like television show, period piece kind of thing. Um, but it's like so entirely out of my control because like film especially. I mean, I think like the success of my books is largely out of my control. It's like you just throw it out there into the universe and like hope it finds the right people or you get lucky or something. But with film, it's like you have so many people involved in making the decisions as to what happens with it. Lots and lots of people. And so there's just like there's no way of knowing what's going to happen.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Best of luck to your future endeavors and to your present projects. Now we're reaching the end of this episode where I just have a couple final questions. The first question I have is, are there any authors out there whom you suggest we keep an eye out for?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give a shout out to two authors. The first author, her name is Yume Katase. She is um, the author of science fiction. She writes science fiction. Her latest book is called Salt Crop. She's a very good friend of mine, and she's just an amazing author and an amazing human. You can find her work anywhere. And then I would also like to give a shout out to the author whose book I'm reading right now. Her name is Meredith Lyons. I am reading a book that she wrote called A Dagger of Lightning, and it is the first book in a two-book series. The second book, A Horn of Onyx, I think just came out, and I am having the pleasure of being in conversation with her in May. She's coming to Cincinnati for an event, so she'll be here. If you happen to be in Cincinnati, you can look us up and come join us for the event. It should be fun.
Uh,
Um, so
awesome. Thank you for sharing. And now for the final question, Emily, why is creativity important for you?
so I mean, I think it's important for everybody. Like, what else are we what else are we doing here? Like, if not for being able to make things and to bring joy and magic into the universe and into our lives and into other people's lives. Like it's it's important for me because like writing or like anything creative for that matter that I'm doing, but writing in particular, because that's what I really love to do is it's it's so personally fulfilling to like sit down and make something out of nothing and then see this idea, this emotion that you have take shape and become this tangible thing that can be shared with somebody else. But I think that there's also a magic in it for like for everyone. You know, if you think about how you feel when you listen to a piece of music that you just love, or you see a piece of art that inspires you, or you read a story that just really resonates with you. Um, like we're all just here kind of exploring what it means to exist on Earth in the brief time that we're here, and like art brings us joy.
It does. Thank you so much for sharing. I really love your book, Mr. Yay, coming out this June 2nd, I believe.
Yes, June
June 2nd,
2nd.
2026. At the time of this recording, it is still 2026. So, yes, audience, go get a copy of this book or also the other books that are out there already by Emily Jane. And if you've enjoyed this episode, to the audience who's been tuning in, please feel free to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Feel free to comment if you're listening to this on a podcast platform. Feel free to leave a review as well. And please share this episode so that more people can discover the awesome talents, the creative books written by our guest today, Emily Jane. And if you would like to help me out, you can do so by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/bestselling. Truth that H7. All of your contributions help me to keep the podcast going, helps me to pay the bills, and of course, helps me to buy more coffee because all of your coffee helps me to keep going and helps me to continue reading more books. So, thank you to all the audience who's tuned in and to our guest today, Emily Jane. Thank you so much for sharing your love for creativity here on Creativity Worth Expressing.
Thank you.